What is up, everybody? So we are continuing to go over everything that was being printed in the press at the time of Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey's arrest, the trial, and everything that happened post-trial as well. Now, the trials have ended, and today we are going back to August 2nd, 2007, and this article is from the Madison Capital-Times. And as always, I will put everything on the screen for you. This article states, Brendan Dassey will be eligible for parole, but will spend at least 41 years in prison. Brendan Dassey, a teenager convicted of helping his uncle kill a woman, was sentenced today to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 41 years. Life sentences are mandatory for first-degree intentional homicide, but Manitowoc County Circuit Court Judge Jerome Fox had to decide to whether to leave the open of the possibility of parole. Today, Fox decided to grant Dassey the possibility of parole. He will be eligible for parole on November 1st, 2048. Brendan Dassey sat quietly at his sentencing, and when asked if he had a comment before it was read, he told the judge, "I don't know what to say." The judge said this was Dassey's chance to say something to his family and Hallbox in the courtroom. "Just that I didn't do it," Dassey said. "I wouldn't do nothing like that." This next one is from September 21st, 2007 from the Madison, Wisconsin State Journal. State having difficult time finding a lawyer for Brendan Dassey. The state Public Defender's Office hasn't been able to find a lawyer to handle the mandatory appeal of Brendan Dassey's conviction in the Teresa Hallbach murder case. Randy Kraft, a spokesperson for the State Public Defender's Office, said that a staff attorney can't be assigned because the office is already handling the appeal of the 17-year-old's uncle, Stephen Avery, in the same murder. According to Kraft, the complexity of the appeal and the limited payment rate are the reasons the state has not been able to find an attorney for Brendan Dassey's case who is certified for homicide appeal work. The time demands of this case are expected to dominate an attorney's practice for quite some time, Kraft said Thursday. Secondly, and perhaps even more of a factor, the $40 per hour reimbursement rate does not even cover the typical overhead of a private attorney. The situation is unfortunately not uncommon. We have difficulty finding private bar attorneys willing to take appointments more often than we'd like. Avery and Dassey were convicted in separate trials earlier this year. A deadline for appointing an attorney to handle Brendan Dassey's appeal has been extended to October 19th by the appeals court. The deadline otherwise would have been 50 days after the notice of appeal was filed on August the 6th. This next one is from October 17th, 2007, and it is from the Madison Capital-Times. It states, big name lawyers to take Brendan Dassey's appeal. The head of the Northwestern University's Center on Wrongful Convictions is one of two lawyers named to handle mandatory appeals for Brendan Dassey. Center Director Professor Stephen Drizzen said one focus would be on videotaped statements in which Brendan Dassey gave details of the crime, the only eyewitness account of it. He later recanted, but the videos were used at his trial. Part of the reason we are getting involved is everybody seems to think Brendan got the short end of the stick here. His confession is problematic in the sense that it may be coerced and false. That's what Stephen Drizzen stated. He noted the statements were made without his parents present and in one case with no attorney with him. Joining Drizzen in representing Brendan Dassey will be Milwaukee lawyer Robert Dvorak. The State Office of Public Defender had to get outside counsel for Brendan Dassey to prevent a conflict of interest because it already has a staff attorney representing Brendan Dassey's uncle, Stephen Avery, in his appeals. We're really fortunate to have two attorneys with national representations to take the case, said Randy Kraft. a spokesperson for the Office of the Public Defender. Both attorneys come with great experience, excellent reputations, and we are also thankful Attorney Stephen Drizin, a national expert, will do this case pro bono. Dvorak said the attorneys know it will be a very long appeal considering the volumes of police reports, court transcripts, and recordings from the Halbach murder case. The next one is from February 10th, 2008, from the Madison, Wisconsin State Journal. Avery, nephew, appeals in works. They were convicted in the death of a photographer. Attorneys for Stephen Avery and his teenage nephew, Brendan Dassey, are working on appeals for the duo who were convicted last year in the death of a photographer. A year after Stephen Avery's trial began in the death of Teresa Halbach, the clock began ticking on the appeals that will be filed for Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey, his co-defendant. Dassey's appeals filing is due to the District 2 of the State Court of Appeals on March 23rd. That'll be 2 months from when the transcripts of the proceedings were received by the attorneys handling Dassey's appeals, Northwestern University law professor Stephen Drizin, who heads the university's Center on Wrongful Convictions, and Robert Dvorak. The lawyers said they received court transcripts January 23rd and are in the thick of it with reviews of transcripts, exhibits, police reports, and recorded telephone calls and confessions. Stephen Avery's attorney of the State Public Defender's Office said she has received transcripts, but not all the trial records. She said she expects the rest of the court records she needs to arrive soon, meaning the appeal could also be filed this spring. And the last one we are going to go over today is from a year after that. It is from January 2nd, 2009. Stephen Avery's lawyers want more appeal time. After this trial ended, they're stopped, just probably because there wasn't a lot going on, but there was not a lot being printed, so there is a very big extended time in between some of these articles. Stephen Avery's lawyers want more appeal time. The attorneys for Manitowoc County prisoner Stephen Avery want more time to prepare for an appeal. Avery's attorneys have until Monday to file their post-conviction motion. A prelude to appealing the decision, on Wednesday they asked for an extension. In court documents, they said they needed more time to go through the volumes of transcripts, evidence, and other documents. Avery is sentenced to life with no possibility of parole. His nephew, Brendan Dassey, is serving a life term with the possibility of parole after 41 years. So those are the articles we are going to go over today. Like I said before, there's a big gap between some of these. Some of them are years. Like, they're from February 10th, 2008 to January 2nd, 2009. There was basically nothing printed new about the case. If there was anything printed, it was just recapping everything that was already talked about before, because there was nothing really going on. There was no new news. Brendan Dassey and Stephen Avery were sitting in prison waiting for their appeals to take place. And that's what we're going to be going over, I assume, in the next bunch of videos, are articles talking about the appeals. So it will be interesting to see what is next. What do you think? Let me know. Leave some comments below. I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you again soon.